How you doing, guys? We are finally back with another Game of Thrones video, and a Game of Thrones what if at that. So, I'm going to do a versus eventually that I have planned out, but please comment one that you would like to see. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch it, obviously, and before you watch that, go and watch another recent video of mine, titled 500 Toddlers versus a Pitbull. It's one of my best videos, but it's doing very poorly views-wise. So if you guys get that video to 500 views, then the next video I post on here will be a Game of Thrones versus, and I'll start working on another what if ASAP, and it will be whatever you guys choose. If it gets 500 views, I'll do a poll with some options for you. So go watch that video, like this video, and subscribe, and check out my other channel. The link will be in the description. Now, the story shall begin. Our story picks up during season 4, midway through it. There's been peace for some time. Stannis would have Jaime as a hostage after Robb would bring him to Stannis. Brienne, who would also be in King's Landing, would tell Sir Davos that Jaime might have done many horrible things, but he also did much good. She would even tell him the true reason he killed the Mad King. Davos would see her as honorable and would offer her a chance to meet Stannis, but she would decline, as she did despise him. Davos would inform Stannis of all of this, and Jaime would be put on trial for his crimes. After hearing about the countless lives he saved, Stannis would change his perspective of Jaime. He at first wanted to behead him, but instead decided to send him to the wall. After the War of the Five Kings officially ends, Jon tells Sam to write to Robb, asking for more men to help them fight against the wildling invaders. Robb is still in King's Landing when the letter is sent. He gets it just before leaving King's Landing. Stannis sends Jaime and many Lannister loyalists and many criminals with Robb to join the Night's Watch, as Robb hurries to the wall. Robb would send ravens to the many lords of the north, asking for them to send men to the Night's Watch, who would send as many as they could. While defending the wall, the Night's Watch would have 500 men instead of 100, because of Robb's reinforcements. They would have a much easier time defending the wall. But still, Jon would know this needed to end. He would go to kill Mance Rayder, but this time, instead of Stannis coming to the rescue, Robb would, with Jaime and many other men. They would take many hostages. I believe with Robb present, Jon would be open about his thoughts on the wildlings much sooner. He would tell Robb of the time he spent with them, and he would tell Robb of the White Walkers and how much worse they were than the wildlings. Robb, Jon, and Mance would discuss what to do next. Robb would offer to let the wildlings live behind the wall with no violence, and he would ask Stannis to pardon them if they were willing to join them when the time came, and if Mance gave up his title as King Beyond the Wall. Because Mance wouldn't need to kneel before Robb, I think he would take this deal, begrudgingly. If he didn't take the deal, then they would offer it to Tormund's, but we're going with option 1, Mance obliges. They would sail to Hardhome earlier than in the original timeline, and all of the wildlings who wanted to leave would be saved, and many more would leave afterwards. Jon, Robb, Mance, and Tormund would convince most of them though. Robb would leave just after Jon Snow would win the election for Lord Commander. Because he wouldn't get away with it, Sir Alliser Thorne wouldn't assassinate Jon with the help of others. He might try to get people on his side, but almost no one would join him. Thorne would begin to disrespect Jon in subtle ways. Eventually, they would fight. It would begin with Thorne punching Jon in the jaw and insulting him. Jon would then land blow after blow on Thorne. Thorne would then throw Jon into a wall and grab his sword. Jon would grab his sword as well. The two would continue to fight. Thorne would swing his sword with great strength, putting Jon on the back pedal. Jon would wait for Thorne to overswing, then go on the attack. His blade would tear through the air with immense speed, as he slid his head under each of Thorne's swings, until Jon sliced vertically through the back of Thorne. Thorne would yell in pain. Jon would turn him around and spin and impale him. Jaime would be watching and would be very impressed. This would be the first moment of joy he had while manning the wall. Soon after returning to Winterfell, Robb would ask Stannis to send more men to the Night's Watch. He would also ask for the wildlings to be pardoned, and for Stannis to send Dragonglass to help fight the White Walkers. Robb would talk to Rickon about Bran's whereabouts. Rickon wouldn't know where Bran is, but he would tell Robb that Bran was trying to find the three-eyed raven, and that he didn't go alone. Robb would take hundreds of men to search for him, to no avail. He didn't think Bran could make it to the wall, but he sent a raven to Jon, just in case. Robb's child was also due in a few months. Stannis would learn from Lancel Lannister that Cersei was responsible for Robert's death. He would send 100 men to arrest her and bring her to King's Landing. He would receive the raven that Robb sent, and would demand each of the most powerful houses in Westeros to send a certain amount of men to the Night's Watch, depending on the strength of each house. He would also have Dragonstone be mined for his dragonglass, after Robb asked for it in his message. He would pardon the wildlings for their crimes as well. He would also have a meeting with the small council on what to do about Daenerys. He would pardon the Hound for betraying his king, and send him, and pay him handsomely, to kill Daenerys. Stannis would also have Gendry be found. Stannis would be respected by all, loved by many, and feared by some. Tyrion would hate life on Casterly Rock. Shae would likely stay with him, as he didn't need to force her to leave, because she wouldn't be in danger, as all the Lannisters would be more worried about the Starks and Baratheons than Tyrion, even Cersei. Shae would give him happiness though, and he would continue being sort of friends with Sansa. He and all the Lannisters would be saddened to hear about Jaime being sent to the Wall. Tommen and Myrcella would be considered bastards now. Myrcella would still be betrothed to Tristan, as Dorne is much more lenient about such things than other places. Tommen though would have it much tougher. His family and many in Lannisport would still be goodwill towards him, but elsewhere, he was hated. Many in Lannisport would be angered at the death of Tywin, and they would focus this anger towards Tyrion. But Tyrion would make good decisions again and again, and would earn the admiration of his people. Cersei and Tyrion would hear of Stannis sending men to arrest Cersei. Cersei would attempt to take Tommen and leave, but Tyrion wouldn't allow it, and would have men guard her room. However, Cersei would escape by the skin of her teeth, just barely being able to bribe the two men guarding her room. They would leave with her into the night. Daenerys at first wouldn't be affected much by Stannis being king. Jorah would tell her about him overthrowing Joffrey, and he would tell her about how respected he was, but how he lacked emotion and compassion like she did. The fact that the Seven Kingdoms were now united made them all think she should wait longer to conquer Westeros. Cersei would flee to a boat and sail across the narrow sea. Tyrion would send men to search for her in the morning. After realizing what happened, he wrote to Stannis explaining the situation. Tommen would be saddened by this, and Stannis would be angered. Soon, Tyrion and Sansa would go to the north, so Sansa could visit her family, and so Tyrion could visit Jaime and tell him the bad news. After Gendry is found, he would be brought to Stannis. Stannis would legitimize him and make him Lord of Storm's End. After trying to make a son and failing, he would name Shireen to be his heir. The Tyrells would consider asking Gendry to marry Margaery. They would want her as queen, but they knew Stannis wouldn't break his oath of marriage due to his honor. So, she rides to Storm's End and asks him to marry her, and he gladly accepts. Daenerys would be on her throne listening to the problems of her people, when a strange man in a cloak would approach the throne. He would run and lunge at Daenerys, as his cloak fell off, revealing the Hound. He pulled his sword out and swung it at her, but was blocked by Barristan Selmy, who would attack the Hound. The Hound would be put on the defensive. Then Grey Worm and Dario Naharis would join the fight, ending it quickly. The Hound would be seized. They would interrogate him. He wouldn't speak, so they threatened to have him killed by the dragons. He would reveal he was sent by Stannis to kill her. Daenerys wanted to send Dario to kill Stannis, but Barristan advised her otherwise. Stannis was known as a great warrior throughout Westeros and was constantly protected. Daenerys obliged, locking the Hound up. She would then have him executed and have her dragons burn his body, but not his head, and she sent it on a ship to Blackwater Bay as a message to Stannis. Eventually, Cersei Lannister would make her way to Meereen. She would meet with Daenerys. She would ask to be her hand or an ally of hers. Barristan advised against this, telling Daenerys about how she betrayed Ned and possibly betrayed Robert. Daenerys would send Cersei back to Westeros to gain allies for her. Cersei would begrudgingly oblige, but when she left, she wouldn't go to Westeros. She would buy a nice house in Pentos and ponder on what to do next. Jon Snow hears about how Bran can't be found, so he asks the Night's Watch for volunteers to help him find Bran. Due to the remorse he now felt for what he did, Jaime would go. So would many others. Jon would then ask the wildlings for help. Tormund would help him, and a few others would, too, including a warg, who they specifically asked about for information. Eventually, they would find Bran, who wouldn't want to leave, but he would be forced to, along with the others. Bran would get angry with Jon, which would sadden him, but Bran would apologize before he left to Winterfell. Once Bran returned, everyone would be very relieved and ecstatic to see him safe. He would continue training himself, further developing his abilities in warging. Tyrion and Sansa arrive in Winterfell. Sansa would be very happy to see her family again, and Tyrion would not love the North this time, but would be much more welcomed than he was last time. Both would be happy to see Bran, who was well. They would stay there for a while, then they would leave for Castle Black. Sansa would be happy to see Jon again, and Tyrion would be too. Both spend their time there with their brother. Tyrion would be relieved to see Jaime again. Jaime at first would be mocked by the other men in black, but after showing he was the best fighter among them, he earned their respect. Keep in mind, in this timeline, he doesn't lose his hand. He even became First Ranger, but he would be restless after hearing about Cersei. But Tyrion assured him he couldn't do anything, and that she was most likely safe. Tommen would be hidden because of the harassment he could face, but he would accompany Tyrion in this journey, and he would enjoy spending time with Jaime. They would all leave, eventually returning to Casterly Rock, which Kevin Lannister ruled in Tyrion's stead. So, this would take us to the end of Season 5. The rest I will cover in Part 3. Maybe this will be a 4-part video. but I'm not sure. Do you like these videos like this, or would you like these what ifs more in depth? Please tell me. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like this video and subscribe and go watch my video on $500 versus a pitbull, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.